for my camera.
That's weird. We ready?
Says we're live.
Yes, we are.
Ooh,
What's up, you beauties? Welcome to High and Wide Radio, episode 38 of season 5. I'm your host, Iacovone, joined as always by the one and only Jack Smith and boy wonder Travis Ballinghoff. If you're watching live on YouTube, subscribe and set alerts for future shows. If you're in, that's for the Twitter space read, not going to read that. If you're listening as a podcast, make sure to listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to future shows as they become available to you the second we upload them. You can find all of our social media links in one place, hoo.be/HW Hockey, or just head over to hwhockey.net. You may have heard, unless you skip through it, the old, what the hell is it called? Spotify for Podcasters commercial. If you guys want to subscribe and not listen to ads anymore, you can do so for just 99 cents a month. Head over to Spotify for Podcasters, search our HW Radio, and give a subscribe. 99 cents a month. I know you guys can afford that. It's nothing. That's if you don't want to listen to the ads. If you don't mind the ads, go for it. Personally, I hate ads, so I would encourage you to spend 99 cents a month.
Me too.
If you do so, thank you. Give us a shout out. We'll send you a T-shirt or something. Money well spent for you. All right, boys. It's kind of the dog days of the summer. You know, the draft is done. Free agency is done. We talked about who the Flyers signed a little bit last week, Poling, Stahl, and Garnet Hathaway, who had his press conference today. If you didn't know, I'm sure you know by now. It was quite an eventful. Actually, it was uneventful. Turned out to be eventful. The only thing is nobody knew what the hell happened. We're not going to talk about that so much on the show. If you're interested in that, go search Twitter. It's probably popping up now. Flyers were a little busy in terms of, getting their own ducks in a row. Tony DeAngelo is still a Flyer, but they're taking care of some of their RFAs and players like Cam York. Sorry, Travis, I don't want to bother you with that one. Cam York and come on, who's the other guy here? Oh, Noah Cates. How could I forget? Couple bridge deals. As you could tell, the name of the episode is after these two guys, the bridge deals for the Flyers. I want to know from you guys, is it too early? Is it too early in a rebuild for bridging these kind of guys? I mean, we kind of have an idea why, and I want to talk about that, but bridge deals. Jack, your thoughts on the Noah Cates and the Cam York bridge deals?
I think they got exactly what I expected. Maybe the money was a little off, but I have not seen enough from, maybe Cates. You could maybe take that leap of faith, but at their age, why would they want to sign a real long term? How much money are you going to give them? For me, they're too young, especially guys like York and probably eventually Frost. You don't know what you really have yet. For the player, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because these guys usually end up getting screwed if they're worth anything. You think back to Kutz's first contract, how that he was severely underpaid. Roman Josi in Nashville, I remember loving that deal for them. Like, I understand the team wants to get under that, but if you're the player and you've seen that happen, it's better to give yourself more time of development before you try to cash in long term. These guys are going to be how old when these contracts are older? They got plenty of time to sign more contracts. No need to go. I would love the team to do it. Guy like Frost or York, I might be a little. I definitely would like to see more. But in Cates' situation, if I'm Cates, do I really want to sign long term for a little bit more money, or do I want to go 2 years, get more ammo for my agent to use when it comes time to really lock me up?
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way. It was interesting. I was hoping for a little more, maybe for both. Trav, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you both. As a fan, I was hoping for longer-term deals for both of them, just because, you look, they're 2-year deals. The cap hits low. Well, we're not really a cap-strapped team, so it doesn't really matter if the cap hits low or high for the next 2 years. Excuse me. I would have liked, maybe 4 or 5 years, and then, you're not giving them huge cap hits because they're not established superstars yet. Maybe they do in the future. That's why they signed bridge deals, because they're betting on themselves. I think we're going to start seeing that league-wide, waiting for the cap to go up. But you know what? These are two guys who wanted to bet on themselves, and I think that's smart in their case. For the Flyers, well, it takes two to tango. So if they didn't want longer deals and they only wanted bridge deals, that's you pretty much have to go that route. So yeah, personally, I would have liked a little bit longer term, but not much you can do about it.
Yeah. And so this might tie into another topic we're going to talk about later in the show, and it has to do with Danny Briere. And is it too early to kind of, give him shit for being 2 months into his first off season and whatnot? So let's talk these contracts here. I think the first one was Noah Cates. Or was it Cam York signed the first one, or was it Noah Cates?
Cates was first.
Cates was first. So this is the one. Honestly, I wouldn't have minded giving him a few extra bucks if it meant locking him in for 4 years, because I trust that what we saw last year is what we're going to see now and in the future. Even if the offense doesn't come, the way he played defensively, I think he's a player that you can rely on. And when I say rely on, I mean you know what you're going to get, right? Because an inconsistent player is not a player that you can really rely on, So I think Cates has at least shown that his floor is something the Flyers can depend on. It's going to help the Flyers win games. If the offense comes, outstanding. I would have, and you guys tell me if you disagree, I would have been comfortable, even if they went to $4 million by 4 years for Noah Cates, if it meant locking him in for 4 years. And even you're talking your potentially third-line center making $4 million bucks. Come on. And if he happens to slide into the second line, if let's say the offense somehow develops and he's a 50-point guy, that's a steal all of a sudden, 4 over 4. And who knows, maybe that was offered. But what he signed for, sorry, one of you guys had the number. What was the number again? Was that 2.9?
I believe
Cates
was 2.6.
2.6. Okay, yeah. So
per
2.6 per. I would have went the extra 1.35 per year if it meant getting him for 2 more years, because he's 24. On the other side, on the flip side, where does Cates see himself? And you have to factor in the agent as well. The agent wants to make a couple bucks. He's not exactly a young kid, Noah Cates. This is just my opinion. Once you pass 23, not really a kid anymore, right? So can't say he's one of the young guys. Can't say he's one of the kids. He's in his middle 20s. I think at some point during the season next year he's going to be 25. His agent knows he doesn't have that many big contracts in him. It's going to be this one and maybe 1 or 2 more. So he's looking at the next one as a big payout for Noah Cates. Here's another reason why I'm okay with the bridge is that if he does outplay what the Flyers want to pay him, you could always move him. You're not stuck with him, or in 2 years, if he doesn't pan out, you can figure something else out. I'm a big fan of bridge deals. As long as when that next contract comes, you need to be able to negotiate a little bit. You can't just, oh yeah, you had a great year. Chuck Fletcher over here throwing out, millions of dollars or like they're nothing. So we'll see. We'll see, because the Flyers haven't had to negotiate, or I'm sorry, Danny Briere hasn't had to negotiate a contract like that yet. And the York deal, it's fine. I think I'm in the minority where I don't necessarily trust York to put him on the top pair. I think ceiling for me is probably 3, your third best defenseman, second line guy, which is great, outstanding. Not a guy that I wanted to lock up in terms of years. Even if it was for a low amount of money, just I got to see more. I got to see that he wants to be here and that he can do what he can do consistently. I think for me, and you guys could tell me because there were some people that disagreed. He started out strong once he came up to the Flyers. Like, don't forget, he started the year in Lehigh Valley, so there was an issue. And he started out strong with the Flyers, and in my opinion, as the season went on, sort of flamed out towards the end. Now, the analytic numbers are there to say, hey, you're wrong. he played well throughout the season. But I want to see a full 82 and a 2-year bridge deal. You're going to get 2 chances. This year should be, okay, what can Cam York be? And then year 2 should be the follow-up. All right, you want to get paid? Do it again. So I'm okay with it. I would have liked a little bit more term with Catesy, though.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Travis.
I see where you're coming from. I would have rathered 4 or 5 year deals just because I do think very highly of the players. But kind of like I said, they're betting on themselves, and I think that's the way to go. 2 years, the cap should go up exponentially. Their deals will be up. I think York has top pair potential. I truly do. Now, whether that's a 1 or a 2, I'm not sure. I don't know that yet. But I'm very high on the 2 of them, and I would have liked 4 or 5 years just because the cap hit it doesn't really matter at this point.
It's true. Jack, do you have something to follow up with?
That was just 2 good points Travis made. Is the cap. I know Bettman's doing everything in his power to keep that cap as low as possible to keep Arizona in the league.
Yeah, he is.
But like it's gonna pop eventually. So many teams too many teams are getting screwed. Like Toronto is one that comes to mind. Like it's gonna go up, And what do we care what we pay them now? Just to lock them up, pay them, give them more money now, and then long term we're getting a deal. They've already made a good chunk of change. Unfortunately, it just doesn't work that way. The players are definitely betting on it. I look at York, and I see that like it's such a small sample size and a rough start to the season that and he definitely played well. Don't get me wrong, but I would want to bet on myself too before I tried to cash in. I definitely would. And for certain players with the team, it's the same deal. It's like, do we really want to do this and then find ourselves in a bad situation and whatnot? So, I understand it from both sides. It's pretty typical. I'm not surprised. It would have been, I would hope those conversations were had, especially with Cates about, like you alluded to, Jim, locking them up and whatnot. And at the end of the day, the agent probably seen this a million times. I keep bringing it up. I'm sorry, but the Yossi contract, he was 23 years old. They signed him to a 7-year deal. That is all his 20s. And the most he made in any season now was 2013, but still, second to last year, he made 5.25. I think the cap hit throughout was only like 4 something. Like That's the dream. And I think maybe players think like, Roman Yossi and Couture, for that matter, were criminally underpaid for a majority of the year. And then they turn around, not so much in Yossi's case, but sign long-term. But look at Coots, and it's from the second the ink was dry, there was half the people out there were screaming, no, screw him, get rid of him. When he just gave you all that discount, you would call it for years. So I totally understand it from the player's perspective. I think you're going to see even more and more bridge deals, and it just makes sense for both sides. As much as we'd like to get a nice deal, play the NHL game, I think you're going to see less and less of that.
Wayne Simmons always comes to mind when we're talking about them deals too. That first deal that Homer gave him, he was pretty underpaid for a long time.
I think they're learning. They're catching on.
Here's a question for you guys, and we'll go Trav first on this one. What is the most amount of money you would have been comfortable giving Cates? Like, all right, let's say the length of the deal is 4 years. Money wise, what's the most you would have been comfortable giving him?
You said $4 million, probably. That sounds about right for a 4-year deal for him.
Okay.
Is that is that his cap hit? Like, because a lot of these, like, they structure upward.
$4 million cap.
4 cap. Mostly because it doesn't matter. Like, I really don't care with that. He can give $8 million in the first year for all I care. It just doesn't affect anything.
No, I'm talking. So what cap hit then would you be?
Well, I'm saying once we start to creep towards we're really starting to put the team together. Like, Michkov is here. I know it doesn't really work timeline wise, but let's just say it does. For 4 years, $4 million sounds pretty good. I could probably live with 4 or 5. That does seem like you're really banking on what you saw, but that's how you try to get those steals.
He'd be making more than Lawton, right? What's Lawton get? $3 million over $4 million over 4 years?
Yeah, 5 years.
I'll check that because that's pretty wild.
I know.
$3 million for 5 years.
I didn't like that signing, that re-signing that year. That was 2 years ago, I think.
That's insane. So Lawton was a little older. I think he was 27 when he signed.
He's
He's
a
got
unique
3 years left.
situation for all he's gone through.
Yeah, so it's interesting with Cates. He's only he's making a, it's only, but almost 375K less than Scott Lawton right now. Noah Cates.
I'd say it's because of the games played, though. Does he have 100 games played in the league yet?
Cates?
Yeah.
Oh, obviously, right.
It's probably very close to that number.
He's got 98.
Right.
How many?
98 games.
Wow.
That's why the cap hit's so low.
There you go.
Yeah. Interesting.
I like his thought process is probably, okay, I'm an unexperienced guy, right? We talk about the age, but we talk about the games played. He's only played 98 games. He's an unexperienced guy at the NHL level. Prove it on a 2-year deal. 2 years, the cap's going up. We're talking $4 million now on a 4-year deal. Well, that number, if he develops into what he thinks, what's that
getting
number?
over 5 for sure.
Yeah, is it 6? Like,
and a lot of his game isn't luck based. Like a lot of times, goal scorers, like sometimes some nights you just don't get the bounces. But with like a guy like Cates, like his defensive play, you can't take that out of the game. Like injury is really his biggest concern because he's gonna play his game, and I don't see much of that changing. Yeah, if the offense comes, then yeah, you're talking about cashing in for more. But he knows what his floor is, and I think he's comfortable knowing that they look for that in this league. And his next contract, when he has more experience and has done it for more games and maybe can add some offense, he's going to get some money.
Like we see a lot of Noah Cates comparisons, right? And a lot of people try comparing him to Mike Richards, and I don't see that at all. Some people try comparing him to Sean Couturier, and I do see some young Coots in him. Maybe he does develop into a first line center. I personally don't see it, but maybe he does, right? And if that's the case, after this 2-year deal, what's he going to get? $8 mil? Or is he like a Philip Deneau kind of guy where he's like a second or third line pure shutdown forward? Philip Deneau in his, I believe he was 28 when he signed, got $5.5 mil. So I mean, sign your 2-year deal, continue to be this absolute beast of a shutdown center. And he's looking at $5 or $6 mil, maybe more in 2 years. And that's why I think they signed the bridge deals.
And it's still a nice pay upgrade for them. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not like they're getting nothing.
It makes perfect sense for both of them guys to sign bridge deals.
Exactly.
I hope Danny tried to give him a little bit more years, but it takes 2 to tango. And if the guys are just saying no, okay, we'll give you bridge deals and we'll renegotiate at a later date.
I would love if Noah Cates turned out to be a Deneau.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good name. That was a good name pull there. We're so used to hearing like Coots, one aspect of Coots' game, but a player like that did wonders.
I think that could be pretty bang on, especially in terms of production. But we'll see if Cates can do it consistently. I guess I think we're all in agreement that we think he can, and we expect to see more of the same next year. So it'll be interesting. I'm sure we'll make sure to check back up on this show in 2 years when it's time for the raise. If he's getting $5.56 million, that means things went well, and that's not an unbearable number. I think to have, I'm hoping as a third line guy, because as my first or second line centers, I'd like to see a little bit more offense, or maybe he develops it. I don't know, but
that's what I want to ask. What do you guys think his ceiling is?
Yeah, that's a great question. Jack, you have an idea?
I mean, honestly, if you're talking absolute ceiling, let's get silly. They'd be Couturier. I mean, the defense seems like it's already there. The career trajectory outside of being the 8th overall pick is somewhat there where he's showing where he can shine. If he can prove to have that offense at all, let alone first line ability offense, he'd be Coots.
Yeah, that would be great. I really don't know. I mean, a year ago, I'm like, this guy ain't going to be on the team, So now I'm like,
I remember how long ago he was drafted and reading about him as like a dark horse prospect. It was all about TK and Provorov and Sanheim, and he was just a name drafted in the 5th round. You're never going to see him, and then now you're like, look what fell into your lap. So it's tough to project.
Now I'm like, I'm not, and I'm still going to be down on Noah Cates and say, no, you can't be Sean Couturier. I'm going to get proven wrong again. So I honestly don't know. Maybe he's a 15, 20 goal guy, 35, 30 assists. Are you okay with that between 45 and 50 points a season?
If he's a shutdown third line center and you have him out there in a penalty kill and in tough situations, God forbid he could do what Coots did and shut down like a top player like Malkin and the equivalent of now. Absolutely, I would be.
Yeah, I would love that too. I mean, Trav, what do you think? And do you see him being better than that, or what?
I could see it. I completely agree with you guys. I really don't know his ceiling. That's why I asked the question.
It's a tough one.
I could totally see him being Philip Deneau, which is great. A great shutdown center. His offense, I don't know. I liked his offense more his first 20 or so games when he was playing left wing with Frost and Tippett. And you know what? If Coots stays healthy, maybe he ends up back on the wing. I mean, you look at someone like Mark Stone, who's able to dominate both ends of the ice from a wing position. I don't know. I completely agree with you guys. I really don't have a good read on his ceiling, but I see a young Coots in him. I can see a pathway where he just dominates like a Philip Deneau, where maybe the offense doesn't continue to improve and he's just the same offensive player he was this year.
So here's something funny for you guys. I don't know. You might laugh. So I went back and looked at Mike Richards' first couple seasons just to see. And Noah Cates' first year in the NHL, first full season, 38 points, 82 games, 13 goals. Mike Richards' first full season in the NHL, 34 points, 11 goals. Stats are similar. So I think where people get confused when they do these Richards and Cates comparisons, yeah, the statistics are similar, and the will to defend and the way they defend with tenacity and whatnot is there. But the physicality and
the play style is completely different.
Yeah, I haven't seen that out of Cates. But if you want to say the offense could be there, Richards' next season was 59 games, terrible year for the Flyers, 32 points in 59 games. And then we all know his third and fourth years, he kind of blossomed offensively, 28 goals, 30, 31 goals. I don't know if Noah Cates will ever score 30 goals, but I'll be perfectly fine if he's a consistent, if he's like 20 goals every year. That'd be amazing. I'd be happy with that.
I think you could count on one hand how many players you can compare to Mike Richards in today's NHL.
Yeah, it's true.
There's not many at all.
I think it's unfair to so when people wanted to compare Cates to Richards, you're kind of doing Cates a little bit of a disservice because you're not even allowed to play that way anymore. Yeah. The way Richards played, seriously, you're not. And I'm thinking the David Booth hit. At the time, you're like, oh my God, what a massacre. And then looking back at it, you're like, geez, dude, did you have to hit him in the head? So
I think of Kachuk, Matthew, not Brady Matthew. I mean, no one else really comes to mind.
Ryan Leonard?
I was going to say
We'll see.
Yeah, a little too early. All right, so we spent some time talking about Cates. Cam York, you guys heard my thoughts a little bit there. You okay with 2 years on York? You want to see more from him? Or you think maybe they should have extended him more? Did you guys agree with my opinion on Cam York? I'm just going to lay it out. And the people in the comments, if you want to tell me I'm wrong, yada, yada, please feel free. I don't have the confidence and faith that a lot of people have in Cam York, mainly because he has a tough time getting the puck to goal, right? And there's another Flyer on the team that they don't put on the power play specifically, in my opinion, for that reason. And that's Travis Sanheim. So automatically, you have this offensive defenseman in Cam York who, there's offense right in the position name, can't get pucks to goal from the point. His shot is not a strong shot. So how is he going to create offense? Right? And the first thing I think of, and maybe it's just me, I think of Sanheim. Well, how does Sanheim create offense? Mainly on the rush. Doesn't do anything to, overly wow you. mean, he might have a nice play or two, and it might be unfair, but Cam York just hasn't done it for me yet. And maybe the last 2 months of just being no hockey, maybe I have a short memory. But I'm not – I think it's good that they only bridged Cam York. I didn't want to see a 4 or 5 year deal for York. How do you guys feel about that? Jack, you have anything there? You feel the same?
I mean, a bridge only made sense for him to me. You haven't seen enough. I'm surprised that I'm higher on him than you are. I think most people who know anything about me just assume I don't like York because of the Caulfield thing, but that's not the case. I don't care who you win. Teams. There was another player that was known for doing something and having a hard time doing it, and then he got traded to the Flyers and started doing it, and that's Owen Tippett. So I'm not closing that door yet. If York can just figure it out, he could really open something up. So, I mean, he is the perfect to bridge and hope that his game starts to develop. There was a lot of change at the start of this season as well. It was a weird season for sure. They were supposed to be in transition. We kind of had to wait a couple of months for that to happen. So I think with more structure and more like it's on the young guys now, maybe he'll play his game and maybe he'll show that he's that offensive guy that we're expecting, because he's definitely not a shutdown D guy. And maybe he'll show something that Travis sees where he's like, this is why I think he play on the top pair. I'm not that crazy about him yet, but don't get me wrong, I won't be mad. I'm also a sample size guy. A lot of people see like 30 games of a guy and lose their mind. They're like, I'm sold, sign him 8 years. I'm the exact opposite. I need as much time as possible. I've seen us and other teams get burned too many times. So I'm willing to wait. Bridge him. All you got to do, bridge him, see what you got. I didn't expect him to get much more, to be honest. This kind of made sense for me. That's where I sit with him. He probably wants to show more too. He knows first round pick, and his if you read his scouting report, he has not shown what he's capable of. I mean, I know he's still young, but like he's probably knows he's got more in the tank that he's got to show. And I'm kind of excited to see it happen and see, I would love it, see what happens and go from there.
Trav, what do you think? Same thing?
No, I agree with some things Jack said. I disagree with you on what you see out of him. I haven't noticed like the not being able to get pucks to the net. Maybe I'm blind. I haven't noticed that.
Well, I bet you will this year when they put him on the power play.
Okay, I'll be looking for it now.
So in our chat, Shadow 3X says, York does nothing that impresses me. And I've seen a lot of that. For a while, I was kind of on that train. But, Jim, you and I talked about the old shimmy shake at the blue line.
Oh, yeah.
And led directly to a goal. That was pretty nice. If he starts doing that stuff, like has the confidence to do that stuff more often, I don't care if it's on the power play or not, just play your game like that, we might be having like a full 180 on this, or Jim might be having a full 180 on this guy. And it happens. It happens to all of us. You see something you don't like, you pick up on tendencies, and then all it takes is a couple of really pretty plays, and it reminds you why this guy was a first-round pick and what he's capable of, and then you start becoming a believer, and then boom, there you go.
So that's a good point, because Travis Sanheim doesn't have that sort of elusiveness where you pressure him with the puck and he's trapped at the blue line. You're going the other way. It's fast break because he panics. But the point you just brought up, if he can, if he's pressured with the puck, if he can still create and get his, find his way out of that, okay, now we're looking at so this is now a different sort of offense, right? It's like, okay, if you can't get shots to goal, because if you don't have a shot, teams they're gonna pressure you, turn it over, or they're just gonna see what you do. Because if you're not getting a puck to the net, it's like, all right, well, where's he going with this? Because he's not shooting, kind of thing. We'll see. And maybe I am getting a little bit too down on Cam York because of Travis Sanheim. Like I'm over Sanheim. And when I see a guy, offensive defenseman, has trouble getting pucks to goal, that bothers the hell out of me, I think. So yeah, maybe it's just a me thing. Interesting question here. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Trav.
No, I was just going to add, you are right about this team. we have grown the last 10 years where you do pressure this team in any way and they just fall to pieces. And Sanheim was definitely a part of that. So it's only natural to think that all the defensemen that come through here are going to be like that. So I want to see him get pressured and see how he handles it. I want him to see him get cute and succeed with the puck in small spaces. I want to see him be able to rip a pass and carry the puck out of the zone just for starters. Just for starters, just be responsible with the puck, be smart with the puck. Show why an offensive defenseman is not just blasting on the net. Like you're skilled with the puck. Like I want to see that. Like you or more of that, more consistently, and just having the confidence to just do it, just go for it. Hopefully the instincts be do it right. So I mean, there's a lot to see on him still. I think that's why Bridge was perfect. Money's probably lower than some people expected, or right on, whatever. It's a Bridge deal, and he's however old. So like he's got a lot left to prove. I think that's why they did it.
That's kind of what I wanted to get into. Like his shiftiness is like beautiful. I think like his deception and his elusiveness is game changing. His natural playmaking ability is far better than Sanheim's. You guys just said like snapping passes tape to tape. I think he's very good at that. He I don't know how many games he's played. He's a pretty solid defensive player with his stick, especially for his size. I think he's done pretty well in his own zone with such little experience and the size. That impresses me. I don't know. We had the comment, what's his ceiling? That's a good question. I think he has top pair ceiling. I don't know if he's going to be a number 1 or a number 2. I think he will eventually be a number 2. Can he be a number 1? I'm not sure about that. But yeah, everything I've seen out of this guy, I really like. He's not bad in his own zone for being a smaller offensive defenseman with such little experience, and the passing ability, the shiftiness. I think he's a really good player right now, and I think he's going to continue.
I think that Dan Boyle comparison we spoke about offline would be fantastic. That would be a very good ceiling, absolute ceiling for him. I mean, I see him more as like Jim said, a 3, but with like really counting on him with the offense, like power play quarterback or go-to guy, which is very valuable, especially if you know anything about your own end, unlike certain players. If you can at least be somewhat adequate, you have a really good player on your hands, especially if they're that creative offensively, and not just creative, just can rip it, can, find lanes, passing lanes and shooting lanes.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. So real quick, Cam York has played in a total of 87 NHL games, not counting the 3 that he played in 2021. He has 5 goals, 25 assists for 30 points in 84 games. So just over an 82-game season. He's got 30 points, 5 goals. Yeah, if he turns out to be a 30 to 40-point guy, 35, 40-point guy, I'm totally fine with that because that's what I see him as.
I wouldn't be okay with that. I think he has way higher point potential.
Okay. All right. Maybe it's just a me thing.
He's got all his 20s to, improve. So maybe he'll hit that point in like round 26 or something. We keep going up. Who knows?
One other thing.
Always grows slower, no matter who. It's always a slower grow.
I was impressed with all the different roles he played this year and all the different defensemen he played with. We saw him on the top pair with Provorov at times. We saw him with Risto at times. We saw him with Braun, Sealer. I like this game from the day he got called up until the end of the season.
You're on mute.
Sorry, I left myself on mute.
I actually think he outplayed Provorov this year.
All right. One thing I do want to add on York is that he's very confident. He's extremely confident. Some players, I'll say, confident in a good way. York is, I think, borderline cocky, right? Would you say that that's true?
100%.
Yeah.
I personally like that.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Yep.
We'll see. So what I'm almost worried about with that is, and I don't want to open up a can of worms here.
Oh, it's already open now.
Young, cocky kid, 22 years old. It almost seems like a Tortorella target right there. or he's got to break that a little bit out of him, break
He
the
did.
ego part.
Beginning of the season last year.
You're right. He did.
Water under the bridge.
I hope, because I'm going to be interested to see how that plays out now. Full season New York. He's going to have to hit the ground running out of the gate, or else it could be, I don't see Cam York with the Flyers long term, if you want me to be honest.
Wow.
I just don't see him here. I think he's a West Coast kid, not going to get along with Tortorella. He's only signing a bridge deal. I don't see him with the Flyers long term. Just my opinion. A little maybe of a bomb take, but we'll see. Hopefully I'm wrong. We'll see.
You kind of mentioned that, and the first guy who comes to my mind, young cocky kid with Tortorella, was Michael Del Zotto. And he had a really good start to the beginning of his career in New York, and it did not turn out very well. And he ended up coming to Philly and had like I think his first or second year here was pretty strong. But yeah, after that, I mean, he was just kind of up and down the rest of his career, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully it turns better than he did, Michael Del Zotto. Sure.
He was a first-round pick too. Yeah, 20th overall. Yep. I thought he was going to be. I thought he was going to have I thought he was going to have like maybe Tony DeAngelo type numbers throughout his career, Del Zotto, and he just fell off the face of the earth after that year with the Flyers. 10 goals, 22 assists.
He was a late signing too. It looked like he was going to go to training camp unsigned. It's only because Timonen got the blood clots that they even signed him.
And I want to say maybe Delhi had one good year with the Canucks and ended up getting a decent contract out of it.
Yeah,
22 points.
Wasn't he on the Blues when they won the Cup? But I don't know if he played.
He was like the 8th defenseman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was like the Luke Shen before Luke Shen actually became like kind of valuable.
I remember he got a 3-year deal from the Canucks, and after that, it wasn't great.
He parlayed it into extended that career just enough.
Mm-hmm.
Sure did. All right, what do you say we move on a little bit here? About a half an hour, we're talking about the bridge deals. We'll see how they end up in 2 years. We'll talk about this again, I'm sure. Couple Russian topics here. So we got Fedotov. Did I say it right, Trav?
Yes, thank you. Didn't want to stick a screwdriver in my ear again.
Trav was giving me shit before the show about how I'm saying Fedotov. Is it Fedotov or Fedotov?
You had to make him Italian. It's Fredotov.
We're going to talk about Fedotov. We're going to talk about Kolosov. And I guess we could chime in on Michkov a little bit. Have you guys seen this stuff on Twitter?
Of course.
Since Ted brought it up here. I guess so. I'm going to leave this up to you guys. Hopefully you read or heard a little bit more than me. I guess Spittin' Chicklets had, or I'm sorry, that website, that one. I guess they were talking about Michkov and maybe they had somebody from Montreal on. Is that how that went?
So I listened to the pod. I listened to Chicklets.
Go ahead.
They were just kind of recapping the draft, and they were talking about Michkov, and I don't remember if it was Biz or Wood, or maybe it was both of them, but they both said they heard things about how bad of a teammate he is and how much the coach dislikes him.
And he kicked his teammate or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it was both of them. It's Biz Nasty started it, but like it jumped to the other guy, and I don't know who that other guy was, but he was like, "Oh, I never heard that." And then it went to Whitney, who's a total hack. And he was just he hates the Flyers, so he just totally ripped the kid. I'm sure, you might have heard this, you might have heard that, but then there's a million other views where that's not the case. He's competitive. Then there's 100 more that he's an a-hole. Then there's 100 more that he's not. So then to just come out and be like, yeah, he's an a-hole was a little like, come on, like, he's 18, like really.
I actually hadn't seen any of that before they mentioned it. I didn't hear anything. I didn't read anything about him being a bad teammate. Or
I heard a little bit.
Okay.
Somebody mentioned. I remember right before the draft. Because he has character issues. I'm like, that no, it's the Russia thing. What the hell? Character issues? What are you talking about? And then I never heard it again. And then Travis said, after this came out, people have just been posting different he's the greatest. He's an a-hole. He's the greatest a-hole. That's why they resigned him. Yeah.
So right before the drafts, I think I was reading something on Reddit. They had the Washington Capitals Russian scout shit-talking Michkov. And for me, it made a lot of sense why he would do that. So teams would pass up on him, right? Because it's all smokescreen. It's all BS. I'm wondering if people are now going back to all that and going, oh, yeah, it's all true.
Okay.
When at the time it was just BS smokescreen, like.
Well, there's also two very salty fan bases in Washington and definitely Montreal. Yep. So, I mean, there's a lot of reason to go back on it, make themselves feel better about not getting that player.
That's a funny comment from TF. I think we have some Russian followers too now. I'm not sure what time it is in Russia, but if you guys comment, that'd be cool.
Please.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have a filter?
Like a translator?
Yeah. You know what? I'll put it in the Google Translate if anything comes through.
They know how to speak English over there. We're the only country that knows how to speak one language. Everywhere else knows how to speak two in theory.
You're actually right about that.
I will say this. Them guys over at Chicklets, they know a lot of people and they have a lot of connections. They could have heard something like that.
Sure.
Now, maybe they were just trying to get clicks, right? Sure. They're the #1 hockey podcast for years now.
They know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing. But they also could have heard that from somewhere. I mean, they just had Leonard, Will Smith, and Carlson on their podcast, and they got them interviews because of their agent. I mean, they have a lot of connections. Maybe they heard that somewhere.
I agree with Travis saying that they definitely could have heard that. I guess just to say it like that and kind of make everybody's going to jump on that when you can't confirm it, that's kind of low class.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I was just going to ask this. Let's just say whatever it is, because really I didn't read any of this because I think it's all BS, and we're not going to have to worry about this kid for 3 more years. So I didn't want to waste my time reading or listening. I just didn't. Maybe I should have for the sake of the show. But let's just say whatever you read and whatever you heard is true. Does that change your opinion on Michkov? Do you want him off the team? Or are you upset the Flyers picked him? Yada, yada, Jack.
No, not at all. It changes my opinions on who his teammates, I guess, will be. I really don't care. I mean, it's a perfect comment because, this is hockey. Remember when this was a tough sport? Remember when, you weren't walking on eggshells and all that, and it was the tough sport? Yeah, who the hell cares? And people even said it. If any of this is true and they re-signed him, well, then obviously he's valuable, so who gives a shit? So I'm kind of on that train. I don't care if they all love. We had a whole locker room that all loved each other. Well, their cliques loved each other, but they couldn't win anything. So let's have them all hate each other as long as they friggin' win. That's all I care about. Just win. I don't care what the hell do you do in the locker room or on your personal time. Just friggin' win.
Yeah.
He's 18. You draft the generational prospect, that 7th overall. We'll see what happens. That's a pick you make 10 times out of 10.
This is an 18-year-old kid we're talking about. And in the thing that I read, I think they were interviewing his teammate, and his teammate was a little older, a veteran guy, maybe in his later 20s, 30s. And what he described was Michkov, he lives and breathes the game of hockey. Like, it's just his thing. Like, it almost sounded like he was a little nerdy about it. Like, that's his personality, is hockey, So, imagine you're in a locker room and an 18-year-old kid or a kid significantly younger than you gets up in the middle of the room and starts trying to motivate and get everybody going, and starts yelling and screaming. What are you guys thinking when you see somebody doing that? Like,
well, hold on. Is this before or after he has like a 5-point night?
See, that's a good point. Great point.
Yeah, it comes down to who the player is and how good he is, in my opinion.
Great point.
Because
if he's
about McDonald back in the day being given the A, and it's like he's part of the leadership group. What is he telling people? How to stay on their skates? Because he can't do that. Like, what you want to do when you fall is flap your arms and make a snow angel. Like, I couldn't take the guy seriously, but if this kid who's outplaying everybody, maybe I'll listen. If they have any chance of wanting to win, if you actually care about winning, I'd probably listen. I'd probably get a little motivated if this kid's putting up those numbers.
Yep.
Good point. Great point. All right, let's move along a little bit here. So the Flyers have some goalie stuff going on. drama, if you will. Drama in the Flyers. Go figure. Anyways, let's get to the good news first, I guess. They signed Alexei Kolosov, a 2021 third-round pick of the Philadelphia Flyers, to a 3-year entry-level contract. He's currently 21 years old. So I think what's going to happen is he's going to play out this year with his KHL team, Dynamo Minsk, the KHL, obviously. And then I think after this season is when they're going to make an effort to bring him over, is what I've read from multiple outlets. So, all right, so you get Kolosov over here, and that kind of makes sense because Sam Ersson may get promoted to the Flyers between this year and next. Who knows what's going to happen with Hart. Sandstrom will be off the books, we assume. And Peterson will be in the last – he's got a 2-year contract, right, Peterson?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he'll be in the last year. So
I thought it was more than that now.
I got cap friendly up. I'll look. Unless one of you guys wants to try.
Right?
That's what I thought. Yeah.
I hope.
All right. So it makes sense why you want to bring Kolosov over. You got to start replacing guys. Now, well, let me ask you guys before we get to Fedotov. Any thoughts on the Kolosov deal or the implications of what that could mean?
What are the implications? I mean, I'm glad he signed. Like, do you mean like down the road with Fedotov or Michkov?
So I was thinking more in terms of he's going to be replacing somebody next season because someone's going to get bumped up. The Phantoms are going to need a goalie. But if you're looking more longer term, yeah, in 3 years, Michkov will be here. I think Dan Silver even said, let me get his name right because I always want to say Kolosov will be the goalie that wins a Stanley Cup for the Flyers. And I love Dan. And nobody gets tweeting on there. And I was kind of like, whoa, are you sure about that? I don't know. So in terms of that, I guess, I mean, I haven't watched a second of this guy. And his KHL stats are, they don't pop off the charts, at least to me. But maybe there's something I'm missing.
I could have sworn his name was up there with like the trajectory of Shesterkin and Sorokin, and that's what got people like, woohoo.
Yeah. I'm with Jim. I've never seen this guy play, but if you Google his scouting reports, every comparable has him to either Sorokin or Shesterkin.
Wow.
So, I mean, for that alone, yeah, sign him. So I was all about that. I actually was surprised there wasn't more. I mean, Dan's tweet makes sense now, but I didn't see a whole lot of that. It was very much like, oh, what are we going to do? Or is he going to come over? Kind of whatever. And I was like, why isn't he being like talked about more? And a couple of goalie like depth chart lists came out and he was like middle of the pack. I'm like, if his trajectory is what I last read, I thought he'd be a lot higher. Maybe because it's Russia, I guess. I don't know. But those other two guys turned out pretty damn good. So if he's even in the realm, I thought he'd be considerably higher on that. Seems like the organization at least views it that way. So I'm all for it. I think it's fantastic.
So where I'm a little bit concerned and why I'm a little bit hesitant to get a little manic over this guy. I've never watched play, so I'm going off by hearsay, If we want to compare him to Sorokin and Shesterkin, all I have to look at are stats for when they played in the KHL, okay? I'm looking at – so Kolosov has played in a total of about 75 KHL games. Hasn't had a save percentage better than .912. All right. Now I'm going to Ilya Sorokin. And his first 3 years in the KHL, didn't have a save percentage over .919. But after that, didn't have anything below .929. He's in the 940s, 930s, 950s. All right. He's 27 years old now, Sorokin. You go to Shesterkin, it's the same thing. You're looking at save percentages in the 930s, 950s. And I'm like, okay, so I'm expecting to see a huge jump. I'm expecting to see a productive season out of Kolosov this year, just based off of all the pumping the tires that we're doing already. Mm-hmm. Like 917, 912 save percentage is very good. Very good, right? But don't you expect better from the KHL?
I would agree with you completely. The only thing I wonder is we just drafted that goalie in the second round, Carson Bjarnason.
Yeah.
And everyone said, don't look at his stats. Brandon was a terrible defensive team.
Okay.
Just look at the saves he makes and the athletic ability. This guy was the top-rated goalie in the United States. Maybe it's a similar situation like you. I've never seen him play. I don't know if that is the case, but I guess it would make sense.
Yeah, I'm just trying to play a little devil's advocate here because I'm, I usually, and Jack will tell you this, I mean, I think you guys both know me by now. I don't go by what people say. It's like, okay, well, you're telling me this, but I haven't seen with my own eyes,
It's tough for me because you're talking about a goalie, and they're just so friggin' voodoo. Who the hell knows? I mean, you were talking about he could win the Stanley Cup for the Flyers. Like, whoa, really? Well, Michael Leighton almost did it. So, I mean, I guess anything's possible.
Very true. Very true. All right. So speaking of voodoo and goalies, former seventh round pick from 2015. It's crazy that we're talking about a 2015 year draft pick 8 years later. Ivan Fedotov is stuck in a tug of war, it seems, between the Flyers and CSKA Moscow, the military team in the KHL, which is weird in its own. Anyways, so I'll kind of summarize this a bit. I'm going off an article from our buddy Kevin Durso of 97.3 ESPN South Jersey. So let me just scroll up a bit here. So there's this thing called a memorandum of understanding that the KHL and the NHL had, and it was to honor each other's league's contracts, meaning, the Flyers can't go poach players from Russia who are under contract in Russia and vice versa, right? So the argument here is that Ivan Fedotov, had a contract with the Flyers for last season. He was forced to go to the military. It's a thing that Russians have to do. They have the mandatory year of military service. He tried to skip out on it. Based off what we read, he did his service. In Moscow's mind, this is where it kind of seems a little bit bullshit in my opinion. They said, well, he was under contract for last year, didn't play the contract. His contract expired. He's free to sign. He's a free agent, basically. So they signed him for 2 years. The Flyers, and it was kind of like the buzzword for a little bit, and I hate it, and it's coming back again. The Flyers said that they told his contract because he was unplayable because he had to join the military. So they told last year's contract into this year, the 2023-2024 season, and I think it was unacknowledged because they didn't sign him to a new contract for this year. And that's where things got a little fuzzy, a little hairy. And I think initially it sounded like the KHL was agreeing with Moscow. I mean, obviously they let him sign the contract. He's a part of their team. He's not a Philadelphia Flyer officially. At least that's how I'm seeing this. And there were small rumblings because once I saw all this, I kind of stopped paying attention. I'm like, this guy's never coming over. There are some in the KHL that say they should still honor that contract. And I think it's more so for the sake of future contracts because who wouldn't want to play for an NHL team over a KHL team, right? So in my opinion, KHL teams would be at a disadvantage because then NHL teams can start pulling their players over whenever they want, What do you guys think about this whole situation with Fedotov? We could start with Travis first on this one.
I don't know. You explained it very well, and I honestly, I don't know. I don't know what comes from this. He's a talented goalie. I think, look, if the Flyers and the NHL as a league told that contract, then he's under contract for this upcoming season. And then the KHL, they should have to honor that. Like you said, it sounds like some people agree with me. It sounds like some others don't. I don't know. I really don't know what comes from this. It seems like we're getting updates on this like every 2 days. It's pretty crazy how invested and how, I guess, chaotic the whole situation has been. If the guy wants to play in the NHL, I hope the guy gets the chance.
Yeah, they seem to not give a rat's ass about the players over there, whether they don't care about your development and they stick you on the fourth line playing 4 minutes a night or something like this. However, I do understand that if the United States or the NHL really could pull guys over willy-nilly, there wouldn't be much left for the KHL. So I do understand that. Then there was just the whole military fraud ID thing with him and making an example of him and how much more of that this could even be and whatnot. And it's some real Fisher versus Spassky shit going on right here. And I bet nobody has any idea what I'm talking about. But that is the chess tournament from the 70s, United States and Russia. So, and I have no idea how this is going to pan out. I just really hope that him, especially because he's a Flyer, but all players, they all want to get to the NHL. It's the best league in the world. You want to at least try. Like, I really hope he gets to at least somehow get here. And yeah, I honest to God, I don't have high hopes for it. I think they're really going to put their foot down on this kid.
Yeah, it seems like it. It almost sounds like they're doing it as a grudge to Fedotov, and maybe, I'm sure they want to screw over the Flyers too, an American team, yada yada. I do have the official definition of tolling, if you guys want to know that real quick, because I had no idea what it meant. In certain professional sports leagues, such as the National Hockey League, the tolling of a player's contract to allow for the pausing or delaying of the commencement of a contract can occur under certain conditions when a player signs his first NHL contract. So that's the official definition I have there.
So does that count as an unforeseen circumstance when a guy gets poisoned and kidnapped? And
so the interesting part here is we didn't hear the word tolling when everything went down, only kind of after the fact. I like to assume the best and assume that the Flyers knew that they were going to do this and needed to do it if they wanted to retain Fedotov. At the same time, this tolling stuff only kind of cropped up a couple months ago, right? Or did it happen a lot earlier and my short memory's kicking in?
I could be wrong, but I feel like I heard Bill Meltzer say it on Jason Martinez's podcast like a long time ago when someone, and I could be wrong on this, but I just have the memory of someone just sending in a fan question, hey, any update on Fedotov? And Bill said, no real update, but the contract's been told. I could be wrong on that, but I feel like I remember that correctly.
How long ago was that?
It was maybe the middle of the season.
Okay. All right. So then that makes sense then. Good on the Flyers. Yeah, then
I hope I'm right on that.
This Russian team is in the wrong.
Yeah, good on the Flyers. Good on the league for having that exception. I mean, it makes sense. I don't know if I've heard that before, but it makes perfect sense considering the circumstances. So maybe it wasn't worth talking about. It was more about, hey, is this guy going to live?
Yeah, That's true. All right. So, yeah, we'll see. If they can get Fedotov to come over with Kolosov, all right, Flyers got something cooking here now. They got a couple goalies over here. If it was me, I would try to trade Fedotov as quick as I could for whatever I could to get out of all this BS.
Would you trade him for a 7th-round pick?
No. Would not. I would rather just let him rock or go back to limit. All right. So question of the night here. We're about almost an hour in. Question of the night. Things have gotten a little slow. As I mentioned, Tony DeAngelo is still a Flyer. We've seen reports it's a matter of when, not if. It all kind of depends on Carolina right now. So I'm not so much blaming Briere, but is it too early? Is it fair to criticize Danny Briere already? We'll start with Jack here.
Honestly, I obviously saw this in the notes. I saw a couple of tweets. Criticize him for what?
Yes.
I guess what I've seen is fans expected more turnover quickly with the roster. So I'll break it down real quick. I'll try to look from the other perspective. Sure, they traded Ivan Provorov, the team's best defenseman, and it's hands down. He was their best defenseman. Got a great haul, right? Traded Kevin Hayes got that contract off the books, had to retain half. All they got was a 6. So if you want something to be upset about, sure, it's very easy to be upset about that trade because you got a 6th-round pick for Kevin Hayes and you retained half his salary. Not much else has happened since. You signed Garnet Hathaway, who it's very easy for people not to like. 4th-line guy, yada, yada. Some people do like him, though. Apparently, he's a good 4th-liner. They go out and sign Stahl, who's, Justin Braun replacement, if that. And who's the other guy? Poling, who's apparently a good 4th-line center, but not going to make anybody's offseason. You know what I mean? Signs 2 bridge deals for Noah Cates, Cam York, yet to sign Morgan Frost. As I mentioned, yet to get rid of Tony DeAngelo. So some people are upset. They expected more turnover. Travis Sanheim is still a flyer. If you wanted to see Travis Konechny traded, Travis Konechny's still a flyer. There's still a logjam on the right wing. So I guess in terms of wanting to see things happen quicker, I'm assuming, Jack, what are your thoughts on that?
I would like to cut in real quick.
Go ahead.
I think if any fans expected that, they're crazy because Danny said from day one, we're not doing a full teardown. Now, I will say this. Like we had Peter Harling on, prospect guy, a couple of weeks ago, and he said, yeah, I don't really live in Philly. Like, are all the Philly fans, what does everyone think about this rebuild? And at the time, Travis Konechny's name was in rumors. Carter Hart's name was in rumors. Scott Lawton's name was in rumors. And maybe that kind of made fans lose sight of the fact that Danny said we're not doing a full teardown. Maybe they just forgot about that because everybody's name was in the rumors. I guess that's where that comes from. But like Danny said from day one, we're not doing a full teardown. So I think you're silly if you thought that was coming. I completely agree with you. Like, criticize them for what? If you expected any big free agent signings, you're crazy. It was always going to be bottom of the roster, veterans. You flip them at the deadline, good locker room guys. They were always going to do them kind of signings. And like I said, if you expected major trades for half the roster, Danny said they weren't doing that.
I mean, people even disliked the guys they signed. It's like every team does this. Like, yes. I think people are expecting him to move mountains, and a lot of that's based on rumors. A lot of that's based on getting a 1st-round pick back for Sanheim, which is like, because that rumor came out, it killed the Hayes deal became like one of the worst deals. Right. It's like, it really wasn't that bad. You're not getting a whole lot for Hayes, sure, because you've got a little bit of a higher pick, maybe, but GM and Nashville kind of killed that when Johansson went for nothing. So, I mean, Hayes is whatever. He killed the Provorov deal. That was phenomenal. Everything else was built upon rumor. We thought Hart was out of here too, but it's not his fault. They have to finish up their investigations and report the findings and all that stuff. And, oh, by the way, he drafted Michkov. Did we forget that? They killed the draft. If you listen to other pundits talk about the Flyers draft, it's A or A+. It's all over. He killed the draft. From the first, I mean, you might not like the bonk pick or whatever. They killed the draft. If all that came out of that draft was Michkov and nothing else, I would have been perfectly fine with that as well. He killed the draft. He traded Provorov for a haul. He's got a plan he's setting in motion. I think a lot of people are upset because they didn't trade Lawton for the projected 1st plus in that rumored deal. Sanheim didn't go for a 1st with Hayes. And I think a lot of people really wanted Sanheim out of here and to get another 1st in this draft. There was no trades in the 1st round at all, so you can't hate on Danny completely for that. It takes 2 to tango. So I think a lot of built-up rumors with certain players not coming to fruition and having to wait on a player wanting to waive his no trade, which he did not. There's only so much you can do. You try, and he's been on the job, 2 months, 3 maybe? I don't know. I lost track. And we're already going to criticize him. Do you remember how bad this team was? Some of the players I mentioned being moved in deals a couple of months ago were unmovable, Sanheim. Like, unmovable. Now that he didn't pull it off, we got to criticize him. It's a piss-poor offseason. Are you out of your mind? Like, I'm sorry, but if all he did was get Michkov and nothing else happened, like, it would still be a win in my book. And he's already done more than that. You don't know what can happen. Things settle after free agency. Players get hurt. during the season, preseason. You're allowed to make trades before the trade deadline too. You can make a trade in November if you wanted to. So like, let's give the guy a full calendar year for God's sakes before they start with this shit. So, I mean, I'm not disappointed at all. I'm also not making my full judgment yet either. He's barely got going.
Yeah, it's, to put it frank, it is too short to criticize Danny Briere. I guess you guys talked about why Sanheim wasn't traded. I'm just looking at this comment here. You guys touched on that already?
Well, it was just based on rumors. I mean, look at the DeAngelo deal falling apart. What were we getting that was so great that it had to go through? Like, who cares? And we're getting some. I'm sorry, Jim. You're not going to get another Italian. I'm really sorry. It's not happening. But like, we might actually get more if he just plays ball at the trade deadline. It's definitely possible if that's what happens, or you move him a little bit later. You weren't getting anything for him in the first place. Who cares? And please, nobody said, well, he's blocking some of the young kids. Please don't. I can't.
So I will say for Sanheim, did you guys talk about the deal that was in place already?
Yeah. Basically
Very
what
lightly.
I said was the rumor and how that almost happened, getting a first back for Sanheim and moving Hayes, that got people hot and bothered, myself included, because the idea of moving Sanheim for a first is just out of this world. Because I was saying that Trav, a couple months ago, him getting out of Philly at all for anything, zero chance. So first was mind-blowing. The fact that fell apart, they're using it to criticize Danny, which I think is silly. He shot for the Stars. It didn't go through. We're right back where we started. Did you really expect Sanheim to get moved this offseason? Because I didn't.
So they had a deal in place to trade him. The problem was they were getting a guy back that had a no trade clause. So I'll ask this question, because he all but did have Sanheim traded, and I don't think it had anything to do with all due respect, TF, I don't think it had anything to do with things coming out. I mean, St. Louis media leaked all that. But is it Danny's fault for trading for a player with a no trade clause? Could he have accepted another player? Why did it have to be? Yeah, that's very true. And I don't know that. So if you know something in there,
I don't, but
okay.
Like I would imagine that. I mean, we heard for a couple of days that, okay, this deal's not dead yet. Danny's still trying to work something. Maybe they're trying to get a third team involved. Maybe St. Louis just didn't want to part with any other guys.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know, but I think that's what it was. I mean, teams try to acquire players with no trade clauses all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, and even the team that has them goes as far as to ask the player. Like, it's not crazy. It's the only way they thought they can make it work. Obviously, Blues wanted to move on from Krug. Sounded like the Flyers actually wanted to keep Krug, where we were at the point like, just do whatever he wants to get Sanheim and get the first. Get Sanheim out of here, get the first in here, and do whatever he wants. Ship him to Florida, whatever. Well, it's a lot of moving parts, a lot of different teams. Seemed a little unlikely. I think once I heard Krug didn't want to waive it, I kind of let that dream go. But because it was ever once a dream, I think that's why people are like, oh, he couldn't pull it off. He sucks.
Interesting that they were trying to trade for a player that could run their power play when they have offensive dynamos like Sanheim and Cam York on. No, I'm just kidding, guys.
I think it would have done wonders for York to see how Krug handles himself.
Totally agree. So yeah, interesting stuff. DeAngelo, again, I'll say it again. The deal is in place. I think Carolina's got to move some money. I think what I saw today was, go ahead, Trev.
I would think that it comes down to if they get Carlson or not.
That's what it sounds like.
Because that's not going to work with Carlson, Burns, and DeAngelo all on the same decor. That's not going to work.
I'm wondering why they want to. Didn't they see how Carlson, Burns worked out in San Jose?
Right. It makes zero sense to me at all.
No, it doesn't make sense. Unless San Jose is retaining like a ridiculous amount to where it's like, well, why wouldn't we want Erik Karlsson for that?
Maybe a part of me thinks they're just in it to bump up the price for Pittsburgh or something, because the same division, I mean, it makes sense. But as far as their team structure,
could be right.
I feel like they'd be better off with DeAngelo and adding elsewhere and whatnot. They aren't the team to really bring in like the super high money guy and try to, they have a good team as their thing. So I'll believe it when I see it.
For sure. A couple comments from Ted here. Just want to make sure we're on the same page. Keep saying Danny's said he's not going to do a full rebuild.
That's towards me. Danny
okay.
said from the day he took the job, this was not going to be a complete teardown. If you thought he was trading Carter Hart, Travis Konechny, Travis Sanheim, Kevin Hayes, Tony DeAngelo, Ivan Provorov, every veteran on this team, Scott Lawton, I mean, he said many, many times they're not doing a full teardown. I think maybe all the fans kind of got excited when Travis Konechny's name's in rumors and Scott Lawton and Carter Hart. Danny said from day one he wasn't trading all them guys.
At least
Some
not
of
right
them,
away.
maybe.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not stripping it down to the studs like day one. I mean, he's going to do it right, and it's going to take time. And the other things I remember hearing.
For sure.
That doesn't mean just jettison everybody for the sake of getting rid of them. I think he's going to make smart deals.
For sure.
I don't know what that – did somebody say Filippo's reports were a rumor? I don't know. I don't know what that refers to.
I'm going to assume
I
he's
trust
talking
Ant.
about the DeAngelo.
I think anything Ant says,
like
he's the best out there. So I don't – if I said that, I don't remember saying it, and I apologize. But whatever Ant says is gold in my book.
I'm assuming that's in reference to DeAngelo. So I think
him and DeMarco today, they both said
right.
Deal's in place. It's a matter of when, not if.
Yep, exactly that.
Very good.
For sure.
Which would
yeah,
make
so
Carlson being a smoke tree make even more sense unless Pittsburgh knows something now.
I would like to hear from, because we have a bunch of people watching here. Danny Briere's first offseason so far. Are you disappointed by it or no? I would say going by TF's response, maybe he's not thrilled with it, or maybe he expected more, and maybe even so Ted.
Well, I kind of agree with what he says, where if a lot of those things weren't made public, we wouldn't be, or certain people wouldn't be so upset with Danny because things didn't come to fruition. If we didn't know about this stuff and we only saw what was done, I guarantee you that half the criticism's not there.
I read TF's comment as if he did like Danny's. Yeah. He does like Danny's offseason. It was more so the other deals that fell through really weren't his fault.
Gaia. All right. Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too. We have David checking in. Agree with you guys. Way too early. Yeah. I mean, it's been the summer's not even halfway done. We're not even halfway through July.
Calgary's not done and Winnipeg's not done yet. And they're going to have to acquire some guys that want to play there. I don't know. Maybe the Sanheim deal's not dead in the water.
I don't think it's dead.
I don't either.
It'll never be dead. As long as we live, it'll never be dead.
No, let's talk about this a little bit. So I think, Trav, we were talking about it a little bit the other day. And obviously we've talked about Sanheim on this show and people watch Sanheim. He's not a guy that takes maybe bad news very well. And, you sign a no trade clause for 8 years and you're hearing the team's trying to trade you. If you're a little fragile, well, I don't even want to say it like that, because if I signed an 8-year no trade clause and I found out the team's trying to trade me now and I really wanted to be somewhere, I would be a little bit pissed. Whereas some people, it might shake them up a little bit, like, oh, what the hell's going on, yada, yada. Trev, we were kind of talking about this. You want to touch on that at all?
Well, it was on the last 32 Thoughts podcast of the season.
Okay.
And they went down every single team in the NHL and their offseason, what they've done, what they expect to happen. And Travis Sanheim's name was mentioned. And Elliott said that the Flyers really, really, really tried to keep those rumors in-house because they knew how Travis Sanheim would react.
So something to see there. Maybe he doesn't want to be here anymore, kind of thing. And
the amount of people, I don't mean to cut you off, the amount of people I've read that say Travis Sanheim can't be traded because he has a no trade clause. Well, that's just factually not true.
Right.
Oh yeah. That's
like that's actually been bothering the hell out of me. The amount of times I've seen people say that.
He might have a say in where he goes.
If the Flyers have a deal lined up with Calgary,
he's gone.
Danny will call Sanheim, hey, we have a deal in place. Will you waive your no trade? And at that point, it's his decision, yes or no. He can be traded if he wants to.
Yeah.
And he might want to, but does he want to stick around for a rebuild, or
Exactly.
does he want to try to win? Like it's pretty simple conversation.
Like the two teams I
Like,
mentioned,
you're
Winnipeg
probably
and
limited to where
Calgary.
you can trade him, but yeah, Calgary makes perfect sense.
And he signed an
Calgary-
8-year deal with the Flyers. Like, I think it's pretty clear that he doesn't give a shit about winning.
That-
You know what I'm
He
saying?
cares about the money. I think he saw they're going to give me 6 point what for how long?
Exactly.
I think that was priority number one. Now, if he's like, now that I got my money, maybe I can try winning.
no
If they
trade
trade me
clause,
somewhere
like-
I want to go,
Oh my God.
because he
Sa-
gets booed a lot too. Why would he want? He's not going to be, I mean, if I had a chance to go home and win, maybe I don't know what Calgary's doing, and win, and I'm already getting paid a good chunk, like that no trade clause goes with them.
Yeah.
So it's like you stay there, be set.
Well,
That's true.
Calgary, I mean, half their team has to be traded. They have to find guys that want to play there. Travis Sanheim played his junior career in Calgary. Maybe that's appealing to him.
I think it needs to be. He needs to.
Calgary's got to find guys that want to play there. He's got 8 years left on his deal. If he wants to be there, I mean, if they like him, that makes a lot of sense to me. And then Winnipeg, kind of the same thing. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. Guys don't want to be there. Again, he's from Western Canada. I think he's from Manitoba. It's same thing. If they like him, if he likes that, there could be something there.
They don't have, aside from Mackenzie Weegar, who Cap Friendly says can play both sides, left and right, they don't have any lefties signed past this season. So I haven't been following Calgary as close. So Travis, if you
Hannafin
have
wants
been,
out.
I was going to say Hannafin wants out. So I wonder if there's something there. He's got a modified no trade. I don't know. So the offseason's still young, I think, is what we're trying to say. And a Sanheim trade is still possible.
Well, yeah, I mean, the teams are still signing, like players are still out there.
Yeah.
Once that settles, and you got to go, okay, we didn't get a defenseman, or we didn't get enough players here. Then you look at the trade market.
For sure. Totally agree. Oh, another comment here from David. If Calgary or Winnipeg did want to resign, you guys make anything out of that?
No, not sure.
Sorry. Oh, here we go.
There you go.
Calgary or Winnipeg did want him, what could the Flyers get in return? Yeah, I don't know.
Great question.
I don't know if you guys want to speculate. I have no idea.
Because I don't think any of us thought he was worth the first round pick that the Blues were offering.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people didn't think that. I mean, I guess that's the going rate for Sanheim now. We'll just have to figure out what we actually get. If they did get that, I would be blown away. I still would be blown away.
Like if they offer a second, like is that his value? I really don't know.
At this point, I'm looking at our future, and yeah, could he still develop into something? Sure, but I'd rather take our chances with the cap space, with the cap going up, with the players we have coming up. I wouldn't be the end of the world if we couldn't move them, but I would probably still rather just take what I could get and move on.
I think in all of us in Flyers land, I honestly think we don't value him as much as people across the league do, just from hearing things in different podcasts and different articles, not Flyers, not Philly related. I don't know. Maybe we undervalue him and don't realize what his actual trade value is.
Yeah, I'm sure we do a little bit. We typically do that. I mean, he was untradeable for and not because of his no trade clause, but because we just thought nobody would want him. Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you, once he gets traded and one of the mites on ice knocks him over, they're going to hate him too. You're right. That's so true on so many levels. Unless we get it's so funny. Some of the Konechny deals being rumored for Ottawa. It's like we come to his defense. Like, are you kidding me? This is what we're getting. But it could be the other way with players we hate too. It's like, just take them. But the league, they see value in certain. Some guys do need to change the scenery, though. That's all it is. So I mean, and he's got talent. It's there. It's just how much can you get out of him?
Agreed.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I want to thank the guys who chimed in on that, David and TF, giving your opinions. Ted as well. What else do we got, guys? There were some number changes. I should have had them in front of me here.
York's going to 8. Cates's going to 27.
Yep. And you like those picks? Why look for these?
That's all I saw. I talked to Frost a couple of months ago. He said he wanted to stick with 48.
Oh, really?
Maybe so Briere
Did-
keeps him on the team. I don't know.
I don't know. Did I miss anything? I thought it was just Cates and York.
Didn't something happen? Somebody changed their number 3 times because of
Tyson.
ball?
Tyson went from 52 to 18 to 71.
Yeah, because they signed Stahl, so we had to let go of 18.
That's funny.
I
mean,
actually like the 71. I'm not going to lie.
I like those high numbers, man. I do like 8. Who'd you say was 8 now? York?
Yeah.
I like 8. That's Recchi, so I'm a fan of that. Not like, I mean, if York can be anything.
Got it.
Uh-oh.
You ready?
Let's hear it.
Never.
All right. So you mentioned Noah Cates is 27 already. Sean Walker, new player, so obviously he's getting a new number. Sean Walker, 26.
Beautiful
So
number.
you're free to go get your Sean Walker jerseys now. Cam York, number 8. You guys mentioned Garnet Hathaway, the newcomer, number 19.
I hate that.
Why?
That's Cutter's number.
Oof. Well, he won't be here by the time he comes up.
Is that true? Hathaway 2-year deal.
Well,
Yeah, I
And
mean,
Cutter, we're all hoping he's here next year.
Cutter didn't come to development camp. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, they're going to give him a high number next year, like 64 or something like that. And then when he, he'll be
old
ready to
prime,
go.
yeah.
Nolan Patrick's preseason number.
64.
Yep.
I like
time.
that they do that, by the way. They give, the young kid a high number. You got to earn your number. I like that.
Yeah.
Because in sports, numbers do mean stuff to people, by the way. Because I know some people are like, it's just a number. No. You grow up your whole life playing with number 8. You want number 8 when you play in the friggin' NHL. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Claude Giroux wore that number 56 with some swag.
There you go. So here's a big change. Wade Allison
I didn't see this.
is now number 17 for next season. Thoughts?
How did I miss this?
Pulling on our
Charlie O'Connor posted it.
Good for him. Hopefully he wears 17 in Philly and not with the Phantoms.
He actually talking to him one time, he kind of compared his game to Jeff Carter. That's actually kind of interesting.
Really? Did miss the net a couple times.
I forget what exactly he said, but it was
I think it was high wide.
wheeling down the wing and firing quick snapshots. I forget what he said, but he compared it to Jeff Carter.
That's the high praise. All right. Hey, shoot for the stars, baby.
40-goal season out of Wade coming up.
Can you imagine? We'd be like,
Wader.
I'm not giving up on that kid yet.
I have, but you guys know, man.
I'm not giving up. I'm not going that far. Jim's very emotional. He's Italian.
I'm quick. Yeah. I'm out on York right now.
You
So
I was with TK like 2 years ago.
Yeah, don't forget that.
Remember his TK?
I was out on
in the
TK.
playoffs.
Remember the night before the draft, he switched on us and went back to Leonard?
Trade
Oh,
Patrick
yeah.
for nothing. Just get rid of him.
Yeah.
I mean, they basically did.
He's tough,
Ryan-
man. He put his
Ryan
whole
Ellis.
fantasy team on waivers to teach him a lesson.
We're on episode 38 of the season. Who's some good 38s for the Flyers?
That's an interesting number.
You know what? We can look that up, but I will not. I don't feel like it.
Downtown Patty Brown?
Yes, he was.
Oliver
Where is he
Larson?
this year? He's with Boston this year.
Yeah. Oliver Larson, the Great Dane, 38.
Yeah, I remember him. Big dude.
Yep.
Jeez. You're really
Is that
going
it?
back.
There's got to be more. Derek Grant,
Power play specialist.
Okay.
I liked him.
I did in a short time. Yep.
I met him his first day in Philly. I was like, how you liking it so far? And he was like, it's cool, but I had to buy a jacket because he came from Anaheim, California.
All right, boys. What do you think? We're almost an hour and a half in. Pretty strong show, I'd say.
How many times is Jim going to ask that effing question?
I've enjoyed the show. Hope everyone else has.
You missed that one, Trav?
I guess I missed it.
Don't worry. You watch it on the repeat.
Yeah, watch it on the repeat. All right, boys and girls. We're going to wrap this episode up. Thank you to everyone who hung out in the comments, all the viewers. We appreciate you guys, all the new subscribers watching this show. Thanks for subscribing. Tell your friends. Watch the show together, but on separate laptops so we get the view. One last time, give us a subscribe and a follow. Listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Set alerts for weekly shows and favorite HOO.be, HW Hockey, or head over to hwhockey.net for all of our latest episodes and articles. Mark Ramos just put out an article who's going to play on the Flyers top line next year. Go read the article, check it out, see what Mark thinks. It's good stuff as always. We'll be hanging out next week, probably Monday or maybe Tuesday if something pops up. Everybody have a fun, safe week. We'll talk to you next Monday.
Ray Emery.
Oh, that is a good one. Don't even try to beat that one.
That's the GOAT.
Rest in